بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه كما يحب ربنا ويرضاه وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبد الله ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا وبعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. It was a couple of days ago, a couple of classes ago, I was asked a question by a student, a disciple or a disciplet. What are the 7 most important books in your library? Or the 7 most crucial books in your library? And we said that is a very difficult question. It's not an easy question. All books are of some type of importance, and many books are all important and crucial and vital and so on and so forth. Let alone the fact that spontaneous question, different fields, fiqh, hadith, tafsir, etc. Let alone the fact that we have a mixed audience. We have a mixed audience. Like most lectures, not all, but most classes is a mixture, which you find people listening that aren't students of knowledge. They're just listening because they want to they want to be in the dhikr of Allah. And you find some people who may be listening because they just like HadithDisciple. That's a reality. They like HadithDisciple. Or you find some people who may be listening, they're in the middle. They know a little bit, they've studied a little bit, but they're not totally, real hardcore like that. And you might find some people who may be hardcore. Some people who only speak Arabic, who learn and study books. Some people memorize the Quran and watch HadithDisciple. Okay? Some people who you wouldn't think would watch HadithDisciple, watch HadithDisciple. As we've proven when we were in Canada. Alright? And then you find some people who may watch HadithDisciple who are envious and jealous. It's a reality, and we know that you're out there. Alhamdulillah, you're not hidden to us. Alhamdulillah, that's fine as well. And we also welcome you, as we've said before. And we also believe that you have a right over us as what? As those others do. And there are other people with different theories and different thoughts and different levels of cups being full, being empty, being half empty, half full, etc. All types of people watching. So these are all reasons why that question was a very difficult question. So bi'idhnillahi tonight I'm going to share a few books with you, which I wish I would have mentioned the other day, which I consider to be from the most important books in my library that I've studied and read and took from, so on and so forth. Tayyib. And I think it's a crucially important book for someone who's learning hadith and the sciences of hadith, and those who are trying to learn the sciences of hadith in the right way, in the proper way, in the right direction from the beginning. So here's a book which we will call, it says Al-Ilal Al-Saghir. Al-Ilal Al-Saghir. And the author of this book, Al-Ilal Al-Saghir, it says Lil-Imam Abi Isa At-Tirmidhi An Nuskhati Abil Fath Al-Kharruhi. This is called Al-Ilal Al-Saghir by Imam At-Tirmidhi, the well-known Imam of the Jami', one of the authors of the 6 books of hadith. And it's clearly mentioned that he died in the year 279. And it says that this book is from a manuscript which is of Al-Kharruhi. 548 he died. It's an original authentic manuscript that the edited version is based off of. It says here Tawfiq Adil ibn Abd al-Shakur al-Zuraqi. That's the editor. Adil ibn Abd al-Shakur al-Zuraqi is the editor. He made the tahqiq of the nuskha. And the taqdeem, the introduction, taqdeem Fadilat al-Shaykh al-Muhaddith Abdullah ibn Abd al-Rahman As-Sa'd. Shaykh Abdullah ibn Abd al-Rahman As-Sa'd, he did the introduction to the book. Dar al-Muhaddith is the one who, or the company who printed the book, published the book, etc. Tayyib. The book is well known. The book can be found in the end of Jami' al-Tirmidhi. And the end of Jami' Tirmidhi. Pass me the last volume, please. Volume 5, right there, the book that's open. There are no coincidences. We know that everything is the qadr of Allah. But if you want to say linguistically coincidence that I had this book on the table open and had nothing to do with me introducing these books. So this here is the last volume of Jami' Tirmidhi. This is one of my favorite prints of the book. It's not necessarily the most authentic print of the book. There are tahqiqat which are better, which we do have, whether it's behind us or in storage or in other places and locations. But this is one of my personal favorite versions of the book. Okay, for several reasons. In the back of the book, we know that the last chapter of Tirmidhi, it says here, is al-manaqib, the virtues of the Sahaba, virtues of the companions, etc. And then after that, he says Kitabul Ilal, the book of al-Ilal, Kitabul Ilal. And this book here is not a separate book that Tirmidhi wrote. And before I move forward, as I said before, we have a mixed crowd and a mixed audience. And my speech right now is addressed to hardcore students of Hadith. Right now, we're addressing them specifically. So if you feel lost or it's a little out of place or you're confused, that's fine. But everything is not for what? Everybody. And we generally give everyone a piece and a share. Right now, we're talking to a specific audience. And those who don't know everything or can't get everything, inshallah, you can benefit from it one way or another. Tayyib. So in the end of Tirmidhi's book, he has Kitab al-Ilal. And that which is called or is known to the ulama as al-Ilal al-Saghir. Tayyib. The book is called what? Al-Ilal al-Saghir. Alright? The small miniature version of Al-Ilal. And we also know that Tirmidhi rahimahullah ta'ala has another book which is called Al-Ilal al-Kabir. And the original version of that book is not found. Rather, we have the tartib of Abu Talib al-Qadhi. Alright? Tartib al-Ilal al-Kabir. In which he asked Imam al-Bukhari about hadiths. So Imam al-Tirmidhi rahimahullah, on the back of his book, he wrote a chapter on what he called al-Ilal. And it's not just about al-Ilal, but it's about ilm al-Hadith as a whole. Mustalah, al-Rijal, al-Jarh wa Ta'dil, ilm al-Rijal, okay, speaking about the narrators, etc. So this book here is really a part of Jami' al-Tirmidhi. It's not a specific book. But what this editor did, he extracted it from a manuscript that was more authentic and made it into a specific work. But Al-Ilal al-Saghir is actually a part of Jami' al-Tirmidhi, as we've just shown you. Tayyib. So as a student of Hadith, learning Hadith in the proper and correct way, in my humble opinion, is a must-have book. Obviously, Jami' al-Tirmidhi as a whole is a must-have and a must-read. A must-have and a must-read. And alhamdulillah, I take pride in the fact that Allah Azza wa Jal has allowed us to do classes from the book and to call to the book and praise the book for some years now. And I don't think there's no one like that in the West at all. I don't know. I'm saying what I think. I don't think there's no one that's been pumping and promoting the book like we have been, and saying that it is the most well-rounded, pound for pound, best book from Kutub al-Sitta, Tirmidhi's book. So it's a must-read for a Talib al-Ilm. And it's also a good read for an everyday Muslim. Tayyib. So, Al-Ilal al-Saghir, this edited version here, and you can see right here, these are some of the manuscripts or some of the pages of the manuscripts from the book. Alright? Along with the Tirmidhi, this is definitely put on your list as one of the most important books in my library regarding Ilm al-Hadith. Now, the book of Tirmidhi, rahimahullah, was explained. Many ulama, they explained his book, just like they explained the other books. There's explanation of Sahih Bukhari, explanation of Sahih Muslim, explanation of the Muwatta of Malik, explanation of Sunan Abi Dawud, etc. And from the ulama who explained Tirmidhi's book was Ibn Rajab, rahimahullah, Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali. But unfortunately, and Allah Azza wa Jal, He has the ultimate wisdom, his book did not survive. It was destroyed. It was lost. It was burnt. It was stolen. It was thrown into the sea by the Mongols or the Tartars. Al-Muhim, the whole book did not survive to 2019. There's a small piece of the book that has survived. A small piece of the book that has survived, but the whole book is totally lost. Except for the last part of the book, Al-Ilal. And subhanAllah, how amazing is Allah Azza wa Jalla, how perfect He is, that He allowed for that part of the book to remain in whole and to survive to this day. So that book, with the explanation of Ibn Rajab, is commonly referred to as Sharhu Ilal al-Tirmidhi. Sharhu Ilal al-Tirmidhi. And Sharh Ilal al-Tirmidhi is not the name of the book. Rather, the name of the book is Sharh Tirmidhi or Jami' Tirmidhi. Because Ibn Rajab explained the what? Entire book. But the only piece that has survived in whole is that one specific part, which was made into a separate book. So Ibn Rajab rahimahullah ta'ala, he made the explanation of this chapter, just like he made the explanation of the rest of the book. But the only part of the book that survived was this last chapter. So the common day people, ulama, researchers, they refer to this part of the book that has survived as a separate book. And they call it Sharhu Ilal al-Tirmidhi. As a student of Hadith, This is one of the most important, one of the most impactful, and was one of the most influential books, and one of the most sound books of learning the true way of ilm al-hadith, of the true way of ilm al-hadith, of the earlier scholars of hadith, and also shedding light upon the way of the later scholars, but laying down the foundation of the earlier ulama of hadith with regards to learning this great science. So this book has several different versions and several different tahqiqat, several different ways of it being edited and annotated. One of them, one of the earliest versions, is by a great Iraqi scholar, Sheikh As-Samara'i rahimahullah ta'ala. He died, and he was one of the first people to make the tahqiq of the book. Unfortunately, that version of the book is not here in this library. It's in another location. I have two other versions here which are more modern. The first is by Dr. Hammam ibn Abdurrahim Said, and as you can see, it's in 2 volumes. It's one print of the book, Maktabat al-Rushd. And the second one, perhaps is better, and Allah knows best, is by Dr. Nuruddin Itr. All right, and the printer is Darul Ata. Darul Ata. Obviously, this isn't the original cover of the book. Alhamdulillah, the original cover of the book fell off and was faded away, so I got it bound with leather. Oftentimes in Medina, we would do this. You go and they put a leather spine on the book. The way the book is more sturdy, especially if it's a book that you're going to what? Always have and read and go back to it. So these are 2 versions of the book, and there are other versions, as I said, and these are 2 of the best versions of the book being annotated and edited. Sharh al-Tirmidhi is one of the most important books of hadith. If you've never heard of it, if you haven't read it, Nukhbat al-Fikr or Alfiyat al-Suyuti or Alfiyat al-Iraqi, this is, one could say, the Holy Grail. Everyone understand this? The First Testament. Everyone understand this? The original book. Everyone clear on this or not? And it's one of the most thorough books written on the subject from a later scholar. Ibn Rajab died in the 8th century. So to answer that question and to honor that request of that sister, this is one of, or these are some of the most important books in my library regarding the ilm al-hadith. Not the most important book, not the only book, but what? One of them. And it's a book in which you have to read, study, memorize, and constantly be in if you want to be successful on the true way, I said, of hadith, the true path of learning the sciences of hadith according to the way of the earlier ulama of hadith. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. It's a very, very, very long story regarding this book and regarding those books and my journey with those books. So alhamdulillah, very, very, very long story, a long saga. Al-Muhim, get those books if you don't have them. If you can't find the actual copy of the book, then send someone on Hajj or Umrah to bring you back the book, or from Egypt or Mauritania or wherever you are, wherever your friends are going. And if you can't, then at least get the PDF. And even though you have the physical copies of the books, have the book on your tablet and on your phone or your Maktab al-Shamin or whatever other program that you use. And it is unexcusable for a disciple of hadith, who's a serious disciple of hadith, who knows Arabic and who's studying the sciences, not to have that book in his library and not to have read and studied that book and have that book under his or her pillow. And Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best. Tafadal.
Question is, how can you explain that like we all grew up, for me personally, I grew up watching a lot of cartoons when I was a kid, of course, watching TV. Now I know there was a lot of haram or shirk or kufr in it maybe, but some people have made the statement nowadays that maybe fornicating or drinking khamr or something is better than watching those cartoons, or even watching cartoons now that might have, which 80% of it might have kufr and shirk in it. So somebody said that statement of...
So basically someone is saying that to make zina or to drink alcohol is better than watching a cartoon with kufr and shirk in it. Basically,
you might love that kufr and shirk.
Al-Muhim, maybe if somebody's going to watch something and become influenced by that thing and do it and fall into that, then obviously, of course, shirk and kufr is worse than zina and the gambling and alcohol, etc. But is that even practical? Can a person sleep with a woman who isn't his wife and then say it's better than watching Looney Tunes or Bugs Bunny or I don't know, Adventures of Batman and Robin? These are the cartoons we watched when we were younger. What new cartoons they have today? SpongeBob? I don't know. Al-Muhim. If a person says that I can make zina and drink and gamble and steal, and that's better than to watch a cartoon with kufr and shirk in it, I mean, I don't think that's realistic. I think that if you have that much consciousness on your mind of the danger of cartoons and how they can lead you astray, you should have more than enough consciousness not to sleep with someone that's not your wife or to drink alcohol. So I don't think that's really practical.
Back to the values of Tawheed, you would realize that it's better to fornicate than take drugs.
Back to the values of Tawheed. Just because something is better doesn't mean it's advisable. Of course. I would rather you cut off my hand than cut off my arm if it came down to it, of course. But that doesn't mean I say, here, cut off my hand. I want to protect my hand. I don't want to lose my hand. Of course not. But of course, if it came down to it, that's correct. In theory, is that if a person made a sin and he knows that it's a sin, he's better than someone who's not a Muslim anymore. That's common sense. But that does not mean that we abuse that and take it easy and fornicate, steal, drink, and then, well, it's better than, shirk and kufr. That's a game of the what? Of the shaitan. That's a game of the shaitan, let alone the fact that if some of the Salaf radiallahu anhum, if some of them said, I would rather see my son coming out of a whorehouse or speakeasy or a brothel than sinning with the people of desires. I'd rather see someone making this sin than making kufr or shirk or whatever. That does not mean that those same companions and Salaf didn't say that sins baridul kufr. They said it's the bridge to kufr. They also spoke about sins as well. And do we realize that when this Imam said, let's backbite for the sake of Allah for an hour, that's the same Imam who prayed at night, who fasted in the daytime, who made Hajj, who gave sadaqah, who fought in Allah's cause, and the list goes on. Can you say that? Can I say that? Am I of that level of righteousness and piety and ilm and devotion to Allah? So we have to take the way of these ulama, these pious predecessors as a whole. The one who made that statement was not a wife beater. He wasn't someone who abused his wife and blacked his wife's eye and broke her jaw. Let's backbite for the sake of Allah. He wasn't someone who stole and robbed people and gambled and drank and fornicated. There was one brother, unfortunately, and the truth is said, unfortunately, I'm not going to say the brother's name. The brother was from my city. He was from Philadelphia. But he was from another country originally. He's from Philadelphia. So he was with another brother that I was friends with, closer with. I really didn't know this brother like that. So the brother, he came to pick me up one time at where I was living. And I didn't like the fact that he brought him to my house. But it was the qadr of Allah. He was there. So he gets in a car and he starts talking and, so on and so forth, crazy, blah, 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 blah. So the brother leaves. And later on, the other brother, he says to me, yeah, he's talking about Sheikh Yahya al-Hajuri, and Sheikh Yahya al-Hajuri is a mubtadi', he's an innovator. If you go to Damaj, you're an innovator. If you study in Damaj, you're a hizbi, and blah, 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 blah. And the brother, he didn't say, the friend, he says, but I know one thing for sure. Sheikh Yahya al-Hajuri ain't tatted up like you. And the brother had tattoos all over his body, on his hands, on his arms, and he was from a Middle Eastern / Arabic country. He's born, raised Muslim, knows Arabic, but he's what? Tatted up. And he talks about Shaykh Yahya al-Hajuri. So one thing's for sure. Maybe Shaykh Yahya al-Hajuri is an innovator. Maybe he isn't. But one thing's for sure. The Salaf would not get what? Tattoos. That's we can agree upon. So the hypocrisy of the people and the double standard of the people and what they take and pick and choose like it's a shelf. The way of the Salaf is a bookshelf. You pick up a book and leave 5 other books. This Imam who made this statement, who did this, who said, I'd rather see this, was someone who was pious. He was righteous. He was God-fearing. And they made certain statements. And for argument's sake, those statements are not statements of the what? Of the Prophet. The Prophet never said that. The Prophet never ever said, I'd rather see my son coming out of a whorehouse than being with the people of innovation. He never said that. The Prophet never made those words. The Prophet never said that sin is better to Iblis than bid'ah. Not saying that that's a wrong statement. But the what? The Rasul never said that. So if the Rasul didn't say it, there is no legal binding of your argument. I may accept it, I may not, if it's not from Muhammad's honorable mouth. But for argument's sake, those who made those statements, they were what? They were righteous. They were righteous people. They fasted every other day. They made Hajj every year. They stood in prayer all night. They finished the Quran every 3 days, every 5 days, every 7 days. They were warriors in the cause of Allah. Can you say that about yourself? And I've never met Shaykh Yahya al-Hajuri, nor have I ever studied with him directly. I've benefited from him, yes, but I've never studied with him directly. But I'll be willing to gamble and bet my library Shaykh Yahya al-Hajuri doesn't have one tattoo. I'll be willing to if gambling was permissible, I'll put my money on the table that he doesn't have a what? A tattoo. And I'll also be willing that Shaykh Yahya al-Hajuri, and Allah knows best, the list of other problems and issues that the brother may have, or we knew that he had. I guarantee that he doesn't have what? One of those issues. I can guarantee you that. So can you say the same? So yeah, I need the shaitan and how he just dances around people and just plays with their minds and brains. Wallah, it's amazing how he just tricks people. And that's why you should read the book The Devil's Deception of Ibn al-Jawzi, rahimahullah, and how the devil does not discriminate against a righteous person or a knowledgeable person. He tries to trick everyone. And he uses tricks with what? Everyone. Those who like the Quran, he plays with them. Those who like Hadith, he what? He plays with them. Those who have sin, he doesn't care. So we have to be mindful of these things. And as we've said many times before, there is a proper and an improper way of reading these statements and making these comparisons. It's better to fornicate than watch a cartoon of kufr and shirk. Can you say that? You're actually in the fornication, literally, physically and metaphysically. You're in the zina. And you say somebody's watching a cartoon, what? What is this? May Allah help us all. So the bottom line is, don't watch cartoons that have kufr and shirk in them, and don't what? Enter something that's what? You're not supposed to enter. Clear? And Allah knows best. Fadl.
Question was asked today to you. An individual was born Muslim. He reached puberty at 14 years old.
Okay.
He didn't pray Salah till he was 20.
Okay.
The brother said a scholar ruled on it and said that Allah is going to make him stand Yom Qiyamah and make up those 5 or 6 years of prayers that he missed.
Okay.
I asked him for the delil for it, you know, the narration. He said no.
Okay.
So he told me that to ask you. I told him maybe the brother should make Tova. When I told him I would ask you, what's the ruling, or is there anything Islamic on the brother who didn't pray for those 5 years?
Tayyib.
Knowing the prayer was on him.
At the end of the day, before this comes into a messy food fight, which it can become, the brother Muhammad Bonir, he thinks he's a scholar, he talks about the scholars, he answers his own questions, he makes his own book of questions, he's not a scholar, there's no scholars in the West. Before we even get into that messy food fight, Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen, rahimahullah ta'ala, and other scholars that are from the Middle East, from Saudi Arabia, they have said that if a person did not pray for a very long time, and they come to Islam and Allah opens up their eyes and their hearts, they do not have to make up those missed prayers. If a person was born Muslim, had a Muslim name, took the Shahada, was on the fitrah, but didn't pray for a very long time, and then alhamdulillah, they come back around, they get on their deen. He said that you do not have to make up those missed prayers for several reasons, which we're not going to mention. Khalas. Shaykh Uthaymeen. Khalas. Fadal.
What is the ruling on a Muslim or a non-Muslim donating their body to science?
Tayyib.
After they're dead, of course.
Crystal clear. Crystal clear. Question is the ruling of a Muslim or non-Muslim donating their body to science after they're dead. It's details. There are details on the issue. The best thing for the Muslim is to avoid it. Don't give up your organs, especially after you've died. As far as when you're alive and you give up an organ that you can do away with, you keep one, but you can give away one to save another person. That's one thing. Some of the ulama say is what? That's permissible. But after you're dead, the Muslim should not give away his body parts. As far as the non-Muslim, then he's a what? Non-Muslim. And Allah knows best. That's in brief. That's what? In brief. Sheikh Yusuf, tafaddal.
Just to add to what the brother question. I know this country, another country is banned this trust in a body trust. But there's a place, I was listening to the news, but they won't reveal the location in India. Where
They want what?
they will not reveal the location where this is going on. Where
people do what? Steal body parts?
here? No, actually, they had this is an old woman received the body of a young woman. All right, and there was also a brain transplant. So now they were able to reveal the people that actually walking with the body, so the people who already passed away. So basically, this is already been done in India, and sooner or later it's just gonna spread all over. So how do Islamically, how do we handle something like that?
Well, there are details regarding, organs being transplanted. There are fatwa of the ulama that talk about getting a heart transplant from a kafir. While living, of course, we're talking about. There are fatwa of some of the kibar ulama with regards to can you or can you not get a heart transplant from a what? And it's deep. I'm not going to mention the name of the sheikh, who's well known. I'm going to save my secret weapons for those who try to refute later on and make them look stupid. Everyone understand this? Honestly. Siyana. Everyone understand this? So you save your strong stuff when someone what? And then you say, here, take that. Now, moving forward. The sheikh, he mentioned about getting a heart from a kafir. And if a Muslim gets a heart from a kafir, will he have the kafir heart or the mu'min heart? It's one heart. It's one lump of flesh he has in his chest. His heart is being what? And the next kafir heart is what? So will he have iman or kufr? Full cup. Right, Abu Sayyid? That's why I'm not mentioning the name of the mufti. Everybody clear with this? So, transplant, organ transplant and donating your organ, there are details on this with regards to a person being alive after death, a Muslim and non-Muslim. Everyone understands what type of kafir it is. There are details on this. There's a detailed discussion of fiqh that has been mentioned, not only in the fatwa, but also the research papers, ahkam al-jiraha. There are books, there are doctors or doctorate theses and different books in which they talk about surgery and the ruling of organs being switched and donated and passed on. Muslim, dhimmi, harbi, a kafir who is at war with the Muslims, can you give him an organ? All types of rulings like this, huh? And Allah's best. This is one of the books here I also want to show you, which pertains to what I just explained. And this is what is called Ilal al-Tirmidhi al-Kabir. Ilal al-Tirmidhi al-Kabir. All right? And it says, Rattabaha ala kitab al-Jami' Abu Talib al-Qadi. Like we just said, that the original version is missing in the tartib. Alladhi hadha al-mawjud, al-tartib. Tartibuhu. All right? This print here, Ad-Dar al-Uthmaniyya and Al-Maktabatu al-Islamiyya. All right? This is the book that you want to get with regards to the Al-Ilal al-Kabir. And other prints as well. I think this is one of the best. Allah's best. So that can be added to the timestamp in the beginning of the session. Further, next question.
This is Ohe from Famagusta, North Cyprus. Assalamu alaikum, and may Allah bless you, Mufti. What is the ruling or advice on seeking worldly knowledge in general and at a university level specifically?
Question from Famagusta, North Cyprus. What is your advice on seeking worldly knowledge in general and on a university level specifically? There's nothing wrong with seeking worldly knowledge. There's nothing wrong with it. Rather, sometimes it's recommended. Sometimes it's obligatory. Because the Muslims need people with worldly skills as well. Of course, knowledge of the deen, knowledge of Allah, His names and His attributes, that's the foundation. That's the best of the best. But that's not for every single person on that high level. And if it wasn't for knowledge of the dunya, there would be no live stream. I wouldn't be holding this microphone. There would be no internet. There would be no phone. When I get sick, when I get hungry, when my feet hurt, when it's too far for me to travel, I'm now in debt to the what? To the worldly science. So we need doctors, lawyers, engineers, carpenters, bakers, politicians, and the list goes on of the necessity of life. All right? So there's nothing wrong with seeking worldly knowledge. It is not as best, of course, as the knowledge of the deen, but it's nothing what? There's nothing wrong with it at all. And we do not promote that. We do not promote that it's bad to seek worldly knowledge. Do we promote it's best to seek knowledge of the deen and of hadith? Yes, for sure. But it doesn't mean that we what? Go against that. Everyone understand this? As some people say, or one person, he says, you're a racist. He says, I'm not a racist. He says, I don't hate any other races. I just love what? I love my own. So the point I'm trying to get to is, this is a very important principle to understand what a term means. We promote knowledge of the deen, That does not mean that we what? Demote what? It does not mean that. But we're trying to call to what we feel is best. And the same applies to in the deen, Islam. If I say be a student of hadith, that doesn't mean that you can't be a student of sharia or no, that doesn't mean that. Does not mean that, all right? So therefore, there's nothing wrong with worldly science as long as the science is permissible. As long as it's permissible to learn and permissible to practice. And obviously it's something which is a benefit to the Muslims. And everyone is needed for a successful Islamic community. Everybody. We need a scholar. We need a butcher. What is the scholar going to eat? If there's no one who slaughters the animals and cuts the animals. He says, I want lamb chops. My favorite meal is lamb chops over rice. What is he going to eat? So many people, unfortunately, they become so narrow-minded and yani, they say, oh, only be an engineer and a doctor. That's it. The Muslims need engineers and doctors. And that's it? What good is the engineer without the other sciences? The doctor can't do nothing if he doesn't have electricity and running water. And if there's not security at the hospital. So everything is what? Is always what? Needed. Everyone is what? Needed. And even at the meanest job, as I said, a butcher, someone who deals with blood and meat. If there's no butcher in the community, the scholar, the doctor, the engineer can't what? He can't eat food. He doesn't know how to slaughter an animal. He can't cut the animal up, let alone the cook, the chef. So many Muslims, unfortunately, they only want their children to be one thing, just be an engineer. What if a child says, I want to be a chef? I want to study culinary arts. I don't want to be an engineer. I don't want to be a doctor. I don't want to sit behind a desk all day. I don't want to go to school for 10 years and have $1 million of debt. I want to be a cook. I like cooking. I like making people happy through food. What's wrong with that? So we have problems with zealots and extremists pertaining to knowledge of the deen. We have zealots and extremists pertaining to knowledge of the what? Of the dunya. Balance is always what is needed in any aspect. Balance. So there's nothing wrong with studying the dunya and having a profession in the dunya as long as it's not haram. And obviously you should prioritize. Try to study and try to practice that which the Muslims need the most. And even if you don't do that, which makes you happy, as long as it's not against Allah and His Messenger. It's just that what? Simple. There's no complication whatsoever. Everyone understand this? As far as studying in the university, then we all know the problems that come from that. And we all know the benefits that come from that. Some of the problems that come from the university, of course, is free mixing. And being with girls and guys and people that are homosexuals and sitting with them. And you can't just go to a school and take your exam and go home. A reputable school. Some schools, yes. But if you're in a reputable school, a top school, they don't accept you unless you're a team player. They don't accept you unless you have the team spirit. And you're a part of the university. And we're all what? Friends and colleagues. Am I making this up? They promote these things, these activities. They promote these different times in which you actually bond with your classmates. It's not like you can just go get the degree and do what? Go home. Rather, we know that there are different political stances, religious stances, historical stances that you're forced to take if you bear a degree from a certain school. They may ask you about something. What happened? Or do you think this is real? Is this a such thing? And he says, no, that's not true. That's a lie. And they'll say, what? Give us our what? Give us our degree back. There's no way you can bear the name of Harvard or Yale or this Princeton University and you're talking like that. And that's deep. I've left the university. I'm a graduate. I earned this degree. I paid for it or a scholarship, but it's my degree. And they do what? They want to what? Revoke it because of the sheer power of the name and the reputation. To go to show you that alumni and students are not just people who do what? Go and leave. But you're now what? No question. And the same applies to sports. You can play on a small team. You can volunteer. But if you're playing on a serious team on a high level, there is no, I'm a Muslim, you're kuffar. We don't hang out. We don't go do this. No. The people don't play as one cohesive unit on the field unless they what? No question. I have to know the mindset of my quarterback and the quarterback the mindset of the running back. I know what type of coffee he drinks. I know what type of beer he drinks. I know what type of girls he goes out. I know all of that because he's the one who's protecting me from the blitz when it comes. He's picking up the block. He's picking up the rush. I have to be able to depend on him and rely on him. I have to know how he thinks. And that's why all organized sports, they always promote what? Total camaraderie all the time. And there's no one person. Everyone understand this? Everybody clear on this or not? So this is a problem when you go to college. You have to be a part of that lifestyle. You have to be with those non-Muslims. You have to be with those sinful Muslims or those ignorant Muslims. Let alone the fitna of nisa, women that are uncovered, men that are uncovered, people mixing and flirting and so on and so forth. Drugs, we all know that's the reality of college. Okay? Also, the concept of debt and being in debt for many, many years. And the concept of riba and paying off loans and student loans. Is it permissible for me to take the loan? These are all some of the problems of what? College, let alone you studying something which isn't that beneficial. There are a million people who have the same degree. You come out of college and you can barely find a job. You may find a job, a brother who's a plumber, or he works in heating and cooling, and he gets a what? A job like that. 6-month training program, he's employed. Benefits, union, he can take care of a family, he can get married. And find a brother with a big fat degree with thousands and thousands of dollars of interest, he can't find a job because that field is saturated. It's flooded. There are too many people who all want to be what? Pediatrician or this or that. Not saying all of it, but I'm trying to make a point here of how people just get stuck in one profession. There's so many different professions out there. And there's so many professional places that pay money and give you benefits and take care of you for someone who's ready to start. So there are many things to be in life. Your child doesn't just have to be one thing. I'm speaking to parents now. So these are some of the problems of college. Some of the benefits of college, of course, is that you get formal, standardized education. There are certain jobs that will not accept you. They won't look your way unless you have a what? Degree. No matter how skilled you are, no matter how smart you are, no matter how much of a good, honest worker you are, they don't even look your way unless you have a piece of paper. And because that piece of paper means something. It what? It means something. All right? Oftentimes, people, they say, I want to study online, and I can't go into the university. There's some jobs, or even Saudi Arabia, in which they won't accept what? An online degree. Because they know how people lie, how people cheat, how people steal. Or they know that the education in person is not like the education on what? Online. So these are some of the pros and some of the what? Cons of college. And there are many other pros and many other cons. What's important is if you have doubt, if you're uncomfortable, don't go to college. Period. It's just that what? It does not get simpler than that. If you don't feel doubtful and you feel like it's permissible or it's a necessity and it's what we have to do, then go to college, bismillah, put your trust in the law, ask Allah for protection, and what? Keep it moving, handle your business. It's just that simple. Next question.
Sure. David from
the Fajr, Maghrib, and Isha, you pray out loud. But if you're praying at home by yourself, do you have to recite out loud, or can you be like?
Question is about making the prayers out loud. Fajr, Isha, Maghrib. But what about if you're praying at home by yourself? Do you have to say them out loud? Can you say them silently? You don't have to say them out loud anytime, in the masjid or at home. Reciting surahs out loud is a recommended act of the prayer. It's a recommended act of the prayer. It's not something which is an absolute must. It's recommended. So that's what you should do. So when you pray at home by yourself or you oversleep for a prayer, you should make it just like you would normally make it. So let's say a person overslept for Fajr. When he wakes up, he recites it out loud like it's dark. If a person is making Maghrib by himself, he recites out loud what? Like it's dark. That's the recommended best thing to do. And Allah knows best.
Rather than write his initials, maybe you don't know the phone.
Next question.
And this was AC from London, UK. Assalamu alaikum, Mufti. Is it permissible to have a pet falcon?
Question comes from London. Is it permissible to have a pet falcon? I've never read anything from the ulama of Islam prohibiting keeping of a bird of prey. There are hadiths in which there were birds that were kept in captivity, in which the Prophet acknowledged. Okay? They weren't necessarily birds of prey. So, I wouldn't say it's haram to have a falcon as a pet, but I would say it could be haram if you don't handle it properly. And that's because a falcon is not like a cockatoo or a sparrow or a finch or an African gray or a parrot. A falcon is a different type of animal. A hawk, an osprey, and owl, these animals are very different. Their mind and their makeup is different than those other birds. This is a bird that soars, that dives, that hunts and kills and eats flesh. In other words, it's a bird that has some type of what? Pride. Has ego. Has what? Has ego with it. Is no question. It's not a bird that's meant to just be what? In a cage and fed refrigerated meat. It's not made to. This is the reality. This is it's not made for that. It's an animal that's made to be in the wild and to viciously, aggressively what? And grab something and rip it to pieces with his beak and his talons and eat it and feed his children raw flesh. So how are you going to keep this falcon? You're going to keep it in a cage? You're going to keep it restricted? Or are you going to allow it to fly and come back on your arm? Are you going to train it? Are you going to call it? So if you want to keep the animal in that confined space, then there lies no doubt. The experts of falconry, they say that these types of birds of prey oftentimes die because of depression. They die very soon because of what? Depression. They're depressed. It's like taking a military general and sitting him behind a desk. And that's why it's well known in the American culture. When there's a general or a colonel or whatever his rank is, who's known for being a fierce warrior, and they want to punish him, they want to slap him on the wrist, they do what? They give him a desk job because they know that's torture. To be sitting behind a desk with a paperweight and a staple and a phone. He's supposed to be on the what? On the battlefield. That's his life. And they know that he's going to slowly decay with that job. So is it permissible to keep an animal and to keep a bird in which they're totally depressed and they barely eat and they'll eventually die? So if that's the case, then it may not be permissible to have a falcon as a pet. As far as if you want to take care of the falcon and allow it to do how Allah created it, then we say what? La bes. Everyone understand this? A falcon is not like another type of bird that's okay. It's domesticated. Falcon is not necessarily what? Domesticated like that. It's a different type of animal. All right. Me personally, I owned the owl once. Not in the United States, where that's illegal. Okay. And I've also had 2 hawks before in a different country. Beautiful birds, beautiful animals. And if you don't look after them carefully and take care of them carefully and feed them carefully or allow them time carefully, they will die. And they'll become very sick. Everyone understand this or not? So it's not that simple. Do you think that's the only thing that the animal was made to do is just to eat meat? The hunt, the chase, that's all a part of his what? No question. It's meant to hunt down and attack an animal that's 2-3 times bigger than it. And grab his neck and rip his neck open and suffocate his mouth. That's all Allah made that creature. You see what I'm saying to you? So certain animals aren't necessarily made to be domesticated and put behind a cage for the amusement of human beings. Let alone the fact the dark history of zoos. You read the animal zoos are based off of human zoos, in which they used to have people from different countries and cultures and put them on display as what? In a zoo. Everyone, this is reality. At the end of the day, whether it's the Bronx Zoo or not, the Brooklyn Zoo, whatever it may be, right? Allah knows best. That's the first zoo in America, by the way. That's America's first what? In Philly. No, not the Bronx, brother. Barakallah feek. A lion killed a lady. Allah Akbar. Maybe she violated the lion. At the end of the day, a lion that's meant to be domesticated is not like a lion from the wild. And the biggest question that the people have, is it possible to domesticate that type of animal? Can you raise a wolf? That's a big argument, like the chicken and the egg. It's a big argument. Some people say you can, and some people say it can never ever be what? Its DNA will have some type of aggression, one way or another. Allahu alam. Al-Muhim, if you can take care of the falcon, tayyib. If you can't look after it and it's going to die and become sick, then we say what? Don't do that. And Allah knows best.
This was an SB from Queens, New York. Can a Muslim male dye their hair another color except black for the purpose of being different from the kuffar and instilling fear?
Question says, coming from Queens, can a Muslim man dye his hair another color? It's not black, for the purpose of distinguishing himself from the kuffar and for the purpose of causing fear. At the end of the day, it's permissible to dye your hair. You can dye your hair whatever color you wish. Some of the ulama hold the view that it's haram to use black, and other ulama, many others, they say it's permissible to use black. It's a difference of opinion among the fuqaha on using black hair dye. The ulama, they differ. All right, you shouldn't do it. That's the best thing to do, not to deal with black men or what, or women. But if you want to dye your hair brown or another type of color, that's fine. Whether it's a fashion statement or whether you consider it to be an act of sunnah or being different from the kuffar. If you want it to be different from the kuffar, then use the prophetic guidance. Use henna. Hinna and ketam together, or hinna by itself. That's the best thing to do, inshallah ta'ala. As far as being different from the kuffar, striking fear in their hearts, then we all know these are things mentioned in the what? Quran and the Sunnah. Like it, dislike it, what? Who dislike it. Allah knows best.
This is KWAN, Copenhagen, Denmark. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you, bless us. Please clarify ahad hadith in Aqidah. Some people say ahad hadith can't be accepted in Aqidah and quote Ar-Risala Imam Shafi.
Questions from Copenhagen. With regards to ahad hadith in Aqidah, is it a hujjah or not? Some people quote Imam Shafi or not, etc. The bottom line is that if the hadith is authentic, if it suits the grade of authenticity, then it is acceptable in all aspects. Aqidah, fiqh, tafsir, or any other aspect of the deen. That's the simplified, summarized answer. Once more, if the hadith is authentic, it is a hujjah, and it can be used in any aspect of the deen. Hada bikhtisar. That's in brief. As far as a bit of detail, then first and foremost is, did the ulama of Islam in the early days of Islam use the terminology ahad, mutawatir ahad? Did Imam Ahmad use that term? Did he know that was mutawatir? Bukhari, Ibn Khuzaymah, Muslim, Ibn Ma'in, the true masters of hadith, those who laid down the foundations and built it, who lived in the golden era, did they even use those terminologies? Or is the terminology or the word ahad, mutawatir, from the mutakallimin, the people of kalam, and the fuqaha and the usuliyin who learned from the mutakallimin? So that's first and foremost. So the way of the Salaf al-Salih and the ulama of hadith, mutawatir and all that is foreign. That's what? It's all foreign. So we don't even have to deal with it. Last but not least is, there are many aqidah, many hadiths that prove issues of aqidah that are mutawatira, and the people of innovation and the different groups, they still don't accept. Such as the hadith about seeing Allah on the Day of Judgment. Those hadith clearly fit the grade of mutawatira, and they still deny it and reject it and figuratively interpret it. Or the hadith of the nuzul al-ilahi. And there are many, many things in which hadith are mutawatira and they still don't reject it. So at the end of the day, what's the big benefit? As if the ahad and mutawatir thing was used as a way of rejecting and accepting what they wanted to. That which agreed with their bid'ah creed of philosophy, they would accept, and that which didn't, they would say it's ahad. So that's foreign to the way of the ulama of Islam, of the Salaf and early generations. That's in brief. Taban, that's in what? That's in brief, because that's a very long discussion. And Allah knows best. And you'll find that in many books of mustalah. You'll find this in books of mustalah. You find different statements like this, but that's a brief answer, which is more than enough. And Allah knows best.
Initials FA from Houston, Texas. What obligations are in the hadith that are not in the Quran? There are people I know that think if the hadith is mustahab, think if it's in the hadith is mustahab and not obligatory.
Question says, what rulings are in hadith that you have to do that are not mentioned in the Quran? And some people feel that if a ruling is in a hadith, wa alaikum salam, it's mustahab, and if it's the Quran, it's wajib. It's just like the previous answer. That is a foreign, alien understanding of the deen and of Islam. That did not exist among the early Muslims, the early generations. I would understand this. Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, he went to the black stone and he kissed it. And he says, A'lamu annaki hajar. He says, annaka hajar. He says, I know that you're a stone. You can't hurt me, you can't harm me. وَلَوْلَا رَأَيْتُ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ يُقَبِّلُكَ مَا قَبَّلْتُكَ. He says, and if it wasn't for the fact that I saw the Messenger of Allah kissing you, I wouldn't kiss you. It's just that simple. That's what Islam is. Quran, Sunnah. Submission to what Allah and His Messenger have sent down. So there is no, in the Quran is one thing, in the Hadith one thing. Nah, abadan. Because the Hadith, it only has authority, and it's only legally binding based off of the Quran. And the Quran has not specified, take some of it and use some of it, it's obligatory. No, the Quran says follow the Prophet, obey the Prophet, take the guidance of the Prophet. So therefore that's a foreign understanding that is incorrect. There's rather we say there are things in the Quran which are only mustahab. And there are things in the hadiths which are what? Wajib. Whether it's something more that's in the Quran, whether it abrogates the Quran, whether it specifies the generality of the Quran, etc. And Allah knows best.
And it shows MR from Wiltshire, UK. Is it a must for all? Is it a must for us all to take our father's first names as our surnames? Can we just take the family surname? My family's surname is Rahman, which not permissible. What to do?
Question is from where?
UK.
Wiltshire, UK. With regards to taking your father's name as your last name or your surname or a family name as a surname, etc. My family's surname or the name is Rahman, which is not permissible. Once more, empty the cup. Who says that having that a part of your name is impermissible? It does not mean that. That could be one's surname, and it doesn't mean that's his name, Ar-Rahman. Safiyur Rahman. Either or, doesn't matter. English, Arabic, whatever. Having the name Ar-Rahman is one thing. Having the name, all types of things like this. Okay, so you have to be mindful of that. Al-Muhim, the naming system is detailed. The hadith about attributing yourself to other than your father, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's specific to a name, but it's deeper than that. And that's the concept of someone saying that he's not the son of a man. He's not the what? The son of a man. And there are many cultures and civilizations besides the Muslims or the Arabs that had this concept that a man was based off of his what? His father. Such and such, the son of such and such. The son of such and such. Johnson, Brownson. Everyone understand this? So, I need the concept of you calling yourself other than your father. That's the worst thing. If that's done through a name, then it's impermissible to do that. If you have the name of your father and you also say that you're someone else's son, that's what also? Impermissible. There's an essence to the hadith. There's a what? It's an essence to the hadith. Everyone understand this? So therefore, if that's your family name, and everyone is known by that and addressed by that, then that's your family name. And it's not necessarily haram to have that name, especially if it's well known, the family that you come from, and this is your father, and you're not attributing yourself to someone else. And it is not necessarily a condition, a shart, a condition in which your last name has to be your father's first name. It's not necessarily a what? A condition. Especially in light of today's modern world. And Allah knows best.
Is it permissible to have the name Muhammad? Some people, I heard somebody tell me that ignorant.
Is it permissible to have the name Muhammad? The Prophet ﷺ, he says, to keep things brief and to keep things easy, in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there was one ruling. And after the Prophet ﷺ's time, there was a what? Another ruling. So we have two names. We have the kunya Abu al-Qasim, and then we have the name Muhammad. Both of them are permissible after the death of the Prophet ﷺ. Your name can be Muhammad, and your name can also be what? Abu al-Qasim. So both of them are what? Permissible. During the time of the Prophet ﷺ, one of them was permissible and one wasn't. I'm understanding this? So there's nothing wrong with having the first name Muhammad. That's fine. Rather, there are hadiths, even though they aren't the most authentic hadiths, and ulama, they differ over them. Khairul asma or habul asma ma hummida wa ubbida. The best names are the names in which there's a praise or declaration of servitude. Ahmed, Muhammad, Abdullah, Abdurrahman, etc. Even though it's not the most authentic hadith, but it's a well-known hadith to the scholars of Islam. So there's nothing wrong with having the name what? Muhammad. And many of the great ulama of Islam have the first name what? Not saying that's a proof, but to show you the understanding of the proofs. Al-Bukhari, his first name was what? Muhammad. Everyone understand this? So that's not true. And Allah knows best. Abu Amin.
Just to crush this argument, last time I asked a question about whether or not there was the Sahaba differed in Aqidah. You answered the question, and after that it started an uproar online. And the issue they were asking is, what specific things did the Sahaba differ on? Like, what do we have as proof? Because it seems people really don't know this thing, and I don't know this thing myself.
Question comes from Abu Amin from South Ozone Park / Jamaica, New York. Some say Ozone Park, some say what? Jamaica. South Richmond Hill. Oh, Allah Alam. Al-Muhim. Alhamdulillah, his questions have got better over the years, Abu Saeed. Yeah, there used to be an extraterrestrial, X-Files. Yeah, now they've only turned into like, you know, Salafi, this and that, you know, questions. Unfortunately, Salafi bashing, trying to attack people. It's the truth. It's not my question, it's yours. Abu Fitna. I tell you, at the end of the day, Akhi, Barakallah Fik, to smash the argument that the companions didn't or did differ in Aqidah. What are the actual issues over which they differed, so on and so on and so forth. I would say this, and that's what I'm going to say. It matters not whether you have proofs and evidences or not, whether you have examples or not, because someone that's on a specific indoctrination or doctrine, they're going to accept what their sheikhs and their students and translators tell them. Bottom line. So if you bring kalam, speech, from Tafsir Tabari, from this book of Ibn Taymiyyah, from this one, from that one, they're going to say it's either a lie, it's fake, it's made up, or at best they say that's not the proper understanding of it. And the proper understanding of it is what Sheikh Fulan, who's alive today, has explained. And what Sheikh Fulan, who's alive today, has what? Said this is the final word. So with someone like this, you can't win an argument. If you have a debate with someone like this, who's on whatever they call themselves, and it's not one group I'm talking about, whoever it is, if you bring them proof from the Quran and Sunnah, like you're playing chess, that's your move. You start off with a gambit, right? They're going to make a move, they're going to decline the gambit. And they're going to say, what? Sheikh Fulan says, and he's a scholar, and you're what? You're not. You don't understand it. You don't have the proper comprehension because you're not a scholar and we're supposed to follow scholars. Okay, no problem. It's my move now. Let me quote a scholar. Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn Baz. Then they're going to say, we don't what? We don't follow scholars. We don't worship the scholars. Our deen is what? That the truth is not what? لَيْسَ الْحَقُّ يُعْرَفُ بِالرِّجَالِ. The truth is not known by what? وَلَكِنَّ الرِّجَالَ يُعْرَفُونَ بِالْحَقِّ. And then it'll never end. So you start off the conversation with Kitab and Sunnah, they quote what? A scholar. You say a scholar, they say what? Quran and Sunnah. You counter Quran and Sunnah, and they say the understanding of the Salaf. Fulan said this, Imam Ahmad said that, Sufyan al-Thawri. You can't win. If you start off the conversation with ijtihad, let's have an argument. With no names, let's just use proof. No, you can't make ijtihad. You're not qualified to do that. There's no way you can win. وَلَئِنْ أَتَيْتَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ بِكُلِّ آيَةٍ مَا تَبِعُوا قِبْلَتَكَ. Allah says if you brought the people of the scripture every sign and proof, they will not follow the direction of your prayer. And I'm not saying these people are Jews and Christians. I'm not saying that. As the ignoramus from the UK said, after he couldn't prove his point, and after I clearly responded and countered the attacks that were made, they turned into another argument. He makes takfir on the Salafis. That's another game that they play. It starts off with one issue. You beat them in that issue. You prove. And then they do what? Another issue. What happened to the Mahal al-Niza? Yeah, enter. Oh, you. The issue between me and Brother Fulan. Don't you think that's the thing that you should write the article on? No, because his proof and his argument is too strong now. He's putting himself in a strong position. Now you have to do what? Bring something else. It went from this and that, so on and so forth, to he's talking about this scholar and he makes takfir on the Salafis and he accuses them of shirk and kufr. It's a game. So you can't win. So we're not saying that they're Jews and Christians. Are there traits of Jews and Christians upon anyone who goes against the Sirat al-Mustaqim? No doubt. And if I mail or prevent, then I'll have imitation of what? Jews and Christians. So Allah says if you bring them the proofs and evidences, they will not follow your what? Qibla. You can't win. Someone who has an empty cup, someone who's sincere, but they've been misled or they've been duped or hoodwinked or whatever, that's a different story. But there's a what? Few people. And oftentimes, when I'm going to say the truth, what I believe is the truth and Allah knows best, there are people who are sincere and honest, but their brains have just been pulverized with the propaganda for so long that the fuse is burnt out. It's no good. And some people, they just don't get the point, and they can't get the point because their brains have been tarnished. Even though they're what? They're sincere. That's not like someone who's not sincere and he just wants to follow what he wants to follow. The proof is clear. Common sense is clear. History is clear. But he's still going to fanatically stick to what Sheikh Fulan said. There's no difference in alqaeda. There's no such. He's an innovator. He's this and he's that. And the proof is clearly against that. That's one person. But you may find somebody who's really sincere. But his brain has just been what? Literally. It's saturated with filth. And you try to feed him good, healthy food, he can't what? He can't eat it. He can't drink tea without any sugar. It says, give me what? He can't do it. So this is a reality now, okay? So I wouldn't argue with them at all, let alone the fact that the last thing oftentimes you go on social media platforms, the moment you bring them proof and evidence, they do what? They block you. So what's the purpose then? If no one can say anything or bring any, that clearly proves that you're what? It's a gang in your own circle, and no one else is welcomed. Every proof that you bring is a doubt. Everything that we have is what? Is dalil. Our scholar, his tazkiyah is official. The tazkiyah made by the same scholar for another person is what? They say it's what? It's outdated. Ali Halabi, Hassan al-Halabi, who was praised by Albani, it was 20 years ago. It's outdated. But the praise that he made for another scholar is still what? It still exists. Come on, man. What type of fairness and justice is this? It's an immature game. Everything you do is invalid, is of no value. Everything we do is what? The degree. What's the first thing they put on an article? Translated by our brother, graduate of the Islamic University of Medina. Given by our brother, translated, or he's from the Islamic University of Medina. But then you just say degrees mean what? So why does it have to be on the article then? What does it matter? What does it matter that he graduated? So someone who has a doctor's degree or a master's degree, they say it means what? Nothing. Doesn't mean anything. But someone who's in our circle, our gang, our clique is what? He's a what? Graduate of what? Come on, man. You can't be serious with that type of hypocrisy. And you have no shame. You have no shame in the immature, hypocritical games that you play. So there are people, they don't deserve an argument. And Allah knows best. That'll be our last question tonight. Sallallahu alaihi wa barak ala abdihi wa rasulihi nabiyina wa imamina Muhammad.